Yeah, I've gotten rusty. Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hi, we're back.
Yeah, it's been a while. How long has it been?
Well, I mean, I can tell you exactly because I always share. I always share kind of like I always share your videos on my new spot. So I think it was the one we did about the rise and fall of social. No. It was actually that's nine. I got number nine. I think it was the one about Cat Black and Vosh.
Yeah, how long has
No,
this been? Has it been a year?
oh, correction. It's actually I've got one. We on that to number 10, which is where we talked about Richard Dawkins. I think they're not in order, unfortunately. I'm just going through these things now. They're not in order, unfortunately. But
Y-
it's been over a year. Yeah, it was because the number 10 one was in the end of 2022, so quite a long time.
Oh, so yeah, it has been over a year.
Mm.
Yeah, it has been over for a year, but you are so delightful. Like, even when we disagree, you're still delightful. Like, even when we disagree, you don't become antagonistic.
Oh, likewise. I mean, I do like that aspect of you, Rin. You know, you're very judicious, and you can we can disagree about things factually without getting angry. And that's a great quality. That's why I like doing these videos with you. I think because we don't always see the same thing. We don't always see things the same way. I know.
Yeah, that reminds me. John Oliver did a recent video about UFOs.
Oh, did he? Right. I've not seen. Unfortunately, John Oliver seems to be. He's hard to see because like his program is invisible. You got to watch it through a VPN, which is odd because he's English himself. So,
Yeah.
but he's only visible, I think, in the United States.
Mm.
But what did he say in this video? Because
Oh yeah, like okay, John Oliver made a video about UFOs, like a 30-minute video, and he's like, basically he tells people to be cautious of the info out there. Be cautious because, oftentimes there is a rational, like sometimes it's, sometimes it'll be like a Russian spy balloon, for example.
mm,
So if you see a UFO, sometimes it's a Russian spy balloon or a Chinese spy balloon, or sometimes the US government is spying on its own citizens.
which it does, yeah, we know that. So does my government in the UK. I mean, it's true. I mean, the look when you look up in the sky, you'll probably see some things, but most people you'll see things, planes flying over, birds will be flying over your head. You'll see stars and planets at night, the sun and moon, of course. But most people don't look at the sky very much. And in big cities where most people live, you can't actually see the sky very well because it's actually drowned out by light pollution. That is light generated by the city itself from electric lights, and so you can't see much. For example, if you go out into the countryside, always astonishes me living in a city. When I go out into the countryside, there are so many stars and you can't see them in the city. Right, and it's extraordinary to see the sky out where there's no artificial light. Um, and sometimes you'll see things which you won't recognise. I do so myself. I went to the seaside in West Wales last year. I made a video about it actually, and some things I saw lights flying over my head. It turns out they were actually satellites. At night in the countryside, you can actually see satellites flying over. Not all of them, but the low flying ones, if they're big enough, can be spotted from the ground. The ones that carry our telephone calls and maybe even the communication we're having right now, maybe through one of these satellites. Uh,
Yeah, he was just saying like, don't like look at a UFO and go, they're here, they're here, they're here. It's like usually it's gonna be like, a Russian spy balloon or a Chinese spy balloon or your government is spying on you.
hmm.
So it's kind of like, like you might be thinking, oh no, it's an alien, but really it's just your government spying on you and trying to collect your information.
It could well be that, yes, and they do. There are, but I mean, sometimes you will see something. You might see something in the sky and think That is, I don't know what it is. It's not a plane. It's not a bird. It's not a kite, or any of these things. I mean, kites are often reported as UFOs, believe it or not, and um, and you'll think that's the Martians landing or something like that. And of course, you can't automatically assume that. And I agree with him. You can't automatically assume that because you may well be perceiving something that you don't recognize, but actually its actual identity is something that is of this world. Some aircraft look very unusual. There are aircraft which are experimental or of a very strange design that look very, very odd. I mean, there are aircraft that are like triangular in shape. I don't know if you've ever seen the B-2 bomber. You get it at some air shows. It's U.S. Air Force. It looks like a triangle, and it's trailing edge. Like it doesn't have wings. It's like the whole thing is one big wing, and its trailing edge is like these wedges. It has these like wedges on the back. It looks very strange. Um, so yeah, he's absolutely right. I mean, I haven't seen this whole program. Where I would draw the line, I think, is if you see something which is definitely not an aeroplane. In other words, it doesn't fly by aerofoil action. It doesn't have a propeller or a jet. It makes this kind of noise. It doesn't make the kind of noise an airplane would. If you see that, if you see what's known as if it includes what's known as one of the five observables, these are certain features which you could say that is not something made by humans. It's something that no human factory, no no state actor or non-state actor in the human world can create something of that nature. If it has the five observables. If you see that, then you can safely say to John to this guy, you can say, well, that's different. Then you're in the realm of a close encounter, something you see close enough that you would be able to identify it if it was a known phenomenon, but you can't identify it. It's something that is still defying of explanation. That I think that is where you get into the very interesting cases. And it's true, only a minority of reports ever escalate to that level, ever qualify to that degree. But they do exist, and they're actually very common.
Yeah, I guess we had to disagree on that one because I believe that humans are capable of creating anything or just about anything. Like sometimes it would just turn out to be like a drone, like sometimes people would really think, oh, that's a UFO. They would be convinced. But really, it's just, a drone or something that either the Russians have made or the Chinese have made.
Oh, well, in some cases, you may be seeing something which is exactly that. I mean, nations spy on each other, and we know that nations spy on their own citizens. They spy on each other. There was an incident a couple of years ago. I think it was early 2 years ago. I remember because I reported on it, in which a balloon was suddenly spotted. A very, very high altitude balloon. It's over 60,000 feet, so it's way above where commercial aircraft fly. There are only a handful of aircraft that actually get up that high, but this balloon was at 60,000 feet. And it flew right over the United States. It was obviously designed and it was put in a position where the wind would carry it over the United States. And even though it was the Chinese never admitted it, but apparently I think it was a Chinese balloon.
No, it was the Russian. It was the
Was it Russian?
Russians. Yeah, it was the
Oh, it was
Russians.
Russian. And it was shot down. Do you remember it was popped. As soon as it was over the sea at North Carolina, and they knew it wouldn't come down on anyone's head. At the same time, it wasn't too far out at sea where it would sink into very deep water where you couldn't salvage it. The U.S. Air Force sent a plane up and they popped it with a missile.
Mm.
So that does happen, I admit. And there are drones which are very unusual, things that can do really amazing things. However, it's not known we are talking about certain subjects. Hang on, here we go. I'm getting this out of the way. Get that out of the way. I've got to pop up. There I go. So, for example, something which would exhibit sudden and instantaneous acceleration. That would be an object moving in such a manner that in which they may be completely still or traveling in a certain direction at a certain speed, and then they would maneuver and change velocity in a way which was way beyond anything that our current technology can manufacture. can manufacture. Also, hypersonic velocities without signatures. That is, objects traveling well above supersonic speed. That may be 3, 4, 5 times the speed of sound. This is velocities only the only uh, the only thing we can create that has that kind of velocity is a missile of some kind. Yet it would, whenever a human being designs something that can go that fast, it always has some kind of signature, which would be acoustic. It would make a lot of noise. It would have a sonic boom. It would have a rocket engine, which would be very, very loud. It would leave a heat trace, an infrared signature, electromagnetic possibly, vapor contrails, atmospheric ionization. And what we'll find is that some objects traveling at those kinds of speeds don't exhibit those kinds of signatures. The third one is low observability. Regardless if an object is being viewed electro-optically or electromagnetically through the naked eye, getting a clear target on it remains elusive. Very often, witnesses describe them being, radar returns come back nonsensical, for example, even jammed. And I mean, I know that there is electronic interference and the military has active signature management of fouling, which is in a sense radar jamming and things like that. Yeah, this is very extreme in nature. And now transmedium travel. This is very strange. Now we don't have any. We have a few vehicles that can do things like this. Transmedium means the difference between air, sea, and land. We have, for example, cars that can actually enter the water and become boats. There's one in London that takes people on it like a tourist route. There are also seaplanes, an aeroplane that can land on the sea, for example. But in this case, we have objects that will fly in the air, and sometimes they're observed flying in space. They're observed from satellites and even from by astronauts on space stations. And then they will immediately ascend into the atmosphere and then enter the water, sometimes without leaving a splash. The fifth and final observable is positive lift. Objects that apparently resist the natural effects of Earth's gravity, yet without any normal aerodynamic means of lift. So they're not an aerostat, they're not a balloon. They have no obvious means of propulsion or lift, that is flight surfaces, wings, or a rotor blade for a helicopter, things like that. Now, this is, when you come across a sighting that has those kinds of features, it can't be a drone, Russian, Chinese, American, British drone, or anything like that. There are strange aircraft and strange, even secret assets that these countries have, these militaries have, and indeed intelligence agencies. But none of them can do that, all those things, which is why. This is why I think there may be some other explanation. It could be these could be the product of a non-human intelligence, in my view. So, don't you think about that?
For me, I am a hard skeptic when it comes to aliens.
You're going to be a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, I'm a hard skeptic when it comes to aliens.
Well, I mean, aliens. Define what aliens are. Do you mean beings from another planet who live on a planet?
Well, I mean, I highly doubt that they're anywhere near close to us. I mean, if they do exist, it's like, why do we imagine that they have the technology to come here?
Well, I mean, it's true. I mean, in a long time ago, when UFOs were written about in journals in entered popular culture, people thought, well, they must come from Mars. They come from Mars or from Venus because these are very near planets to Earth. And although in those days people didn't know anything about those planets, they didn't know what they were like. And then, of course, we sent our own spacecraft to visit those planets. We found out there's no way either of those planets, Mars or Venus, could harbor any form of sophisticated life. Venus is too hot, Mars is too cold, basically. And then we started thinking, well, maybe they come from further afield. But then where's that? Because there's no other habitable planet in our solar system. So do they come from other solar systems? Because, of course, but other solar systems are much, much further away than the planets. They're talking about light years.
Yeah, exactly. These other planets are light years away from us, and we, with our high-powered telescopes, even we cannot find life in other solar systems. Like even when we try to look at different, you know, we can't find life anywhere. And we've been
Mm.
trying and hunting, but with no success. There's no success to finding life anywhere.
Well, there's indeed, if you're referring to SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, it has had several very interesting. It's been several interesting events, including one in the last week, which has occurred. But generally speaking, no, there haven't been. We haven't looked out there and seen something like the Earth. Now that could be because there is nothing. Excuse me. There is nothing like the Earth, or it could be because it's so far away. Something that far away, we wouldn't necessarily be able to detect the kind of life we're talking about here. Um, Excuse me. Oh, pardon me. Um, but there have been incidents such as in the last week, I think he's a professor of astronomy from Cambridge, or I can't remember his name. He's an Indian guy, I think. But it was called Life on was it K2? So I know it's the same K2-18b. I know it's got the same name as a mountain, and it says here the James Webb Telescope. Is life possible? And this is interesting. K2-18b is a planet that is in the Goldilocks zone, which means it receives almost the same amount of solar radiation as Earth does from his parent star, which is it's likely it may well have a similar surface temperature. And it has what's been found there is several gases have been detected in its atmosphere, such as methane and carbon dioxide, very low levels of carbon monoxide, which is unusual. That's something you only find in the Earth's atmosphere. And there's also another chemical as well, which was found. I can't remember what it was, but this guy is called Dr. Nick. What's his name? Doctor. I don't know his name now, but he's an Indian type chap. I think he looks like an Indian guy, and it's possible this is life. Now, if life occurs, if life emerges on a certain planet somewhere out there, it may one day become like we are, maybe develop into a sophisticated animal capable of building spacecraft. And if you think, hello, Freaky, how you doing? If you think that's impossible, then what have we done as humans? We have built craft that could go to our neighboring planets. And of course, that's quite close in cosmic terms. But there is something called Project Daedalus, which was designed in the 1950s, which is a potentially could be a craft that could reach nearby stars, and it could do so within about about 50 years, and it would travel at a certain percent of the speed of light. It's powered by nuclear explosions. Very interesting. So we humans are working on ways of going to visit other stars. Now, if we can do that, potentially other craft could. Hello, Seth. How you doing? I know Seth.
Mm. Yeah, hey Freaky, hey Saft.
So hypothetically, I mean, it is theoretically, there's nothing I think preventing other beings reaching us, and I think they have. I think they have personally, but I might be wrong. I mean, aliens could be something else. I mean, what do you mean when you say aliens? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that it's possible that there's life on other planets, but I mean, these planets tend to be like what light years away. I highly doubt that they're traveling here.
I suppose, like I've explained it, there is possible. It's physically possible to build craft that could do it, that could reach that far. And what's more, and if that's the case, I believe, and if we are observing objects which are clearly beyond what humans can build, or it's what we know. To be correct, it is not. We don't know specifically these weren't built by humans, but it seems extremely unlikely. Then I think it is a conclusion we have to come to. At least we can suggest it as possible, as likely, that because if all other explanations fail, as Sherlock Holmes once said, whatever is left has to be the truth. And this is a very, very uh, widespread phenomenon. It's not rare. It's actually quite common, especially in the military. The military tends to deal with things like radar and airspace protection and things like that. So they regularly encounter these things. But I mean, they're not just seen by the military; they're seen by everyone. Sometimes they fly at low altitudes, and they're seen by people walking out at night and things like that. It's interesting thing.
Yeah, but I think that that's just, wishful thinking.
Oh well, it could be. I mean, I think it would be for me, because I quite like the idea, but other people are quite scared of that idea. They don't like the idea there are aliens out there because, I mean, if there are extraterrestrials and they exist, we don't know who they are, where they come from, and what they're like. We don't know what are they doing here. What are they doing on our planet? Why are they here? Do they do they come in peace as they go in as they say in the science fiction, or are they Klingons? Are they trying to conquer us? We don't know, because they exhibit a wide range of behaviours actually, for people who've encountered beings. Some of them are very friendly, others are less so. Some it seems are quite malevolent.
Yeah, I believe that that's just wishful thinking, though.
It could be, but as I said, the wishful thinking could cut both ways. It's wishful. I mean, I quite like the idea. Other people don't like the idea, and they're frightened of it. And it's. I must admit, it gives me a moment of concern, because if they really are picking up cows in the middle of the night and taking off and cutting off their udders and dumping them back on the ground, that's a problem. That's a hostile act. At the same time, though, if they are being friendly and they want to, what was it? They want me to take them to their leader, and they're going to tell us the secrets of the universe, and that's fine with me. So wishful thinking cuts both ways, I think, Ren.
Uh, I disagree with that, I'm afraid.
Okay. Okay. So what do you think what do you think people are actually seeing? You see that? Do you think they're just drones? What do you think they're seeing, or
Yeah,
balloons?
because, like, again, when I was watching last week tonight with Sean Oliver, he had a list of more logical explanations. Like, they could be drones, aircraft from a foreign entity, like it could be from China, like the Chinese spying on us. It could be Russian technology spying on us, or it could be, anybody that has the, capability of spying on us, or it could be our own governments, spying on us. And our own government, like, they have these drones that look like bees. It looks like a normal, regular bee. However, that bee is actually spying on you and collecting
Mm.
information on you. Like our government is interested in spying on us.
They are, yes. It's actually quite that I find very. I mean, in terms of wishful thinking, I wish they weren't doing it, because that frightens me a lot that the governments do that. I'm more scared of men in suits than I am of little green men. At the same time, this little fellow over my shoulder here, he's all right. I don't mind him. This guy here, he's all right. So he can look over my shoulder, but when the government are doing it, I don't like it. Um, but yeah, believe it or not, there are. I mean, the idea that there is drones the size of bees is true. I've seen them. Then they're not secret. I mean, there's one in a magazine. It's literally like about half an inch across, and it does look like an insect. And
Yeah,
it's
it looks exactly like a little bumblebee, but it's a bot. It's designed to spy on you and collect information on you and, report it to the government. And
it has a
it's like,
camera. Yeah, it has a
yeah,
camera and it has a microphone. So talk about a fly on the wall. So yeah, the government has technology. I mean, you see, it's possible that even the objects that fit in with the five observables, even some of them might be some kind of secret government program. It's possible somewhere out at Lockheed Martin, or
mhm,
in central China, or in parts of Russia, or even here at Porton Down in the UK. There's a secret project that has found a way to control gravity, and they built aircraft that could do it.
mhm.
That's possible. However, the reason I think not all UFOs can be fitted in even into that category is it's simply the antiquity of the phenomenon. It goes back a very long way. For example, people say, when did people start seeing UFOs? And the answer is people started reporting them when they could do so without being burned at the stake as witches.
Mm.
They entered popular culture in the mid 20th century because, and like many phenomena in this world, they don't start when people start looking at them. They've always been there. It's just then suddenly the media starts paying attention. So, for example, in 1947, Kenneth Arnold had his sighting, and that was when suddenly these things became a big news story, and they became a popular cultural phenomenon. In 1961, Betty and Barney Hill, a middle-aged couple from New Hampshire, encountered some beings when they were just driving along on a road at night, and that became the world's first alien abduction. It wasn't. I mean, Kenneth Arnold wasn't the first person to see a UFO. Betty and Barney Hill weren't the first people to be abducted by aliens. But the media and popular culture essentially resurrected this phenomenon into itself, which is when it entered the popular, what most people know about. So, I mean, and UFOs actually, as a phenomenon, precede that by many decades, possibly centuries. So they can't all be, Raytheon's latest anti-gravity drone.
Yeah, I just think it's wishful thinking. That there's just logical explanations for it, than, you know, green man from another planet taking an interest in Earth.
What do you think about people who, for example, I mean, it's actually more common than people think. People have had encounters with beings that don't appear to be human, intelligent beings. They're not animals like a dog or anything. They are they sometimes look a bit like us. They're kind of humanoid and intelligent. It's a lot of people have seen them and encountered them. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that there are a variety of logical explanations, like not just one, but a variety. For example, one is kind of like they could have been speaking to somebody disfigured, kind of like the Elephant Man. Like, if you ever seen the Elephant Man, he was highly disfigured. Another option is that it could be a distraction, kind of a lot like what's it, bread and circuses. It's kind of like for some people to take their minds off of other topics, like Epstein's Island. So it's like, let's just say that you wanted to get people to stop talking about Epstein's Island, or if you wanted to get people to stop talking about certain subjects involving the government. What you do is you have bread and circuses, like a person comes and then they claims that they've been abducted, and then, we change the subjects. People are no longer are going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein, his island, who were involved, the list of names. People are going to stop talking about Pizzagate. People are going to stop talking about this, that, and what have you, just to put all of their attention on the UFO. So, it's like another explanation is that it is deliberately designed to distract us from talking about more important issues. Like, if you try to think about, okay, what's important issue could the government try to be distract us from us, and then like, look at the time that aliens are being brought up. It could be brought up right when the government has the most motive to distract people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there is something to be said for that in some ways. For example, if you remember Object Gate, this was basically in the wake of the big Chinese balloon or the Russian balloon or whatever it was that flew over the United States. There were four others that flew over both the United States and Canada, but they were never told. No one ever said they were balloons. They said they might be something else. And this came out. This was exactly the same time as I think it was Epstein. Something was revealed. Yeah, the Epstein list first appeared, and some people started saying, "Well, is it possible the government is decided to distract, exactly as you said, to distract us with some story about UFO, so we won't be looking at the news to see to see who's on the Epstein list. Now, that sort of thing can happen. I mean, for example, they do this. They will bury bad news, and they even have this catchphrase in journalism: "We're going to bury bad news." So you put something really sensational on page one, and people will spend all their time focused on page one, and on page 4 or 5 you can talk about the Epstein list, that sort of thing. Um, this was actually done in 2011, Ren. It was done because the News of the World got into trouble because for several reasons. Firstly, they took a picture of Kate Middleton topless, and they also hacked this young girl's phone because they were after a story. But the thing about it is the phone hacking scandal would have been bigger, but the Kate Middleton's tits stole the front page. I mean, they didn't actually show them. They didn't actually show her topless, but there was a big, massive scandal about Kate and her topless photos in Italy. Some guy with a telephoto lens had been tracking them and managed to find a way to look into their garden of the hotel they were at and take a photo of Kate in the swimming pool without any top on. But the problem is, the thing about that is that in this particular case with the UFOs and Epstein's list, it's the kind of story that seems a little bit too outlandish when really something far simpler would do the trick. A celebrity scandal or soap opera plot or something like that. These usually suffice. Usually something which is less intellectually expanding. By that I mean is, if you put something like UFOs in as the distraction, probably a lot of people will be looking much more closely at the media generally, because it tends to be the more intelligent people, I think, who are attracted to this kind of idea. And the distraction then will probably backfire, because it will cause people to look deeper and maybe realize the very point you're making. Which is why when they want to bury bad news, they usually choose something which is equally sensational, or even more so, but much more mundane in nature. So this is why I don't think the distraction explanation is suitable for aliens and UFOs.
And I disagree with you here, because, they probably think that most. I disagree with you here, because people like the sensationalist stuff, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a lot like sometimes you gotta go like, what's just the government, distracting me from? What is it my government doesn't want me to look at? Like, or case in point, it kind of reminds me, and Sean had covered this, how like so many people were targeting, Tucker Carlson because he was complaining about an Eminem's shoe. Like he was complaining that her shoe went from being a high heel shoe to a flat shoe. And then she'll have pointed out, it's like, okay, all of our attention is on Tucker Carlson complaining about a shoe, but it seems like it's trying to distract us from the fact that Hershey's was in a scandal, like a scandal because their chocolate comes from child slavery, you know.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I've got to say to Freaky that he says that'll grab any red-blooded man's attention. And it certainly, I personally don't fancy Kate particularly. I think she's quite nice, but I don't fancy her. But a lot of guys do, I know. Now, as for Tucker Carlson and the shoe business, and I mean, the thing about that is, I don't think it will work, kind of for the very reason that I just explained, which is that some people will see through it. I mean, you and Shoehead have seen through it. So in your case and in Head's case, it hasn't worked. You see what I mean?
Yeah, but it
This is
worked
how
for
it.
many people. But it worked for many people. Think about how many people it worked for. Like, where, like, especially with the left, where the left loves making fun of the rights. The left gets to the point where they're enjoying, the bread and circuses. Like, to me, the whole bread and circuses is really right versus left, because it's kind of a lot like it took everybody's attention away from the fact that, Hershey chocolate is facing a lawsuit because they depend on slavery.
Yeah, that's right. I think they have a cash crop plantation in Colombia or somewhere. Yeah. Um, well, it's I,
But it worked for many people, though. Like to me, the bread and circuses is the whole right versus left and thing, where the left enjoys making fun of right wingers,
mm,
so right wingers enjoy making fun of the left, or it's like you have the whole UFO thing. There's going to be people who really want to talk about UFOs. Then you're going to have the people who are going to enjoy mocking the people to feel superior, and that's cannot be underestimated, about, like you're going to have one group that wants to talk about UFOs, but you're going to have that other group that wants to feel mentally superior, emotionally superior. They're going to go and try to target those people because they really want to feel superior, which could be an addictive feeling, so it's kind of like it's a great way to a great way for the government to hide things from you. Like you should probably look at what's happening in Congress, what's happening in the Senate, what's happening with the House. Like when they bring out UFOs, start looking at what's happening to Congress and Senate. Try to figure out why they are trying to distract the American public.
well, in the Tucker Carlson case you just mentioned with the Hershey thing, I think I can't discount it. I can't discount the whole thing was a distraction. I think that might be an example of exactly what you're talking about. I have no way. To me, that does sound a bit like that, focusing on the shoe rather on the slavery. But
Or here's another one, kind of like when Hershey's chocolate wanted to look woke and progressive. So they had a trans woman being in a commercial. And then like so many right wingers, started talking about the trans woman. And then so many people on the left, decided to defend the trans woman. And then buy more Hershey chocolate. And
yeah,
again, it's like, Hershey chocolate has that child slavery scandal.
yeah. I mean, firstly, I agree with Freaky. I'm also sick of woke, but I suppose you see in that case, yeah, I mean, I could see that being an example of exactly the kind of distraction you're talking about. I mean, they seem to have like, found a way to get both right wing and left wing people talking about a certain thing, which is irrelevant to what they're most concerned about in terms of the scandal. That's an example of exactly what you're talking about when I think that could count. But I ask
Yeah,
you,
exactly. Like, look, even Fricky's like, I'm so sick of woke. Like, look at Fricky's coming. But it's like that Hershey chocolate. Hershey. They actually knew what they were doing by having that trans woman in a commercial. They knew that right wingers to be angry and mad and complain about woke, but then the woke crowd are going to be defending the trans woman, and they're gonna defend the trans woman with a fire passion. They are gonna buy so much Hershey chocolate just to show solidarity for the trans woman. Then Hershey chocolate successfully distracted you from their child slavery lawsuit.
but I ask you a question though, Ren. What if instead of that they'd had a story where someone had spotted a flying saucer hovering above Hershey's head office? Would that have the same effect?
No, well, I mean, when it comes to, if there was a flying saucer, that would definitely go viral because, again, I would think that that would be the sorts of story that's going to be used as a distraction for something that's more important.
Do you think it would it have the same effect though of as the as the distraction technique we've already discussed? Because it would certainly get people looking at Hershey's. They'd be looking at the Hershey's brand. They may even go out and buy some more chocolate bars from Hershey's and things like that, or the sort of nutty things they sell. Um, but
Yeah, like
mm,
Sean Oliver, pointed out that there was a McDonald's that that has an alien theme to it, so like I don't know why I didn't there was like a flying saucer or whatever found by the McDonald's location, but they had all of these alien themes, and so I think that they were trying to make a profit off people who believe in aliens.
it's in case of like as a brand, yeah. I mean, they have aliens in brands and things like that. You've just seen that with Squarespace. There's a great advert for them. But in case of in Hershey's, what it would do if someone reported a UFO over the Hershey's head office, a lot of ufologists would be looking at it. People who believe in UFOs would go looking at it. But all the people who don't believe in UFOs would also be following along. There'd be a huge amount of attention focused on Hershey's. Attention, I must say, by people. What I mean, there's a difference between these two types of stories, in my view, Ren. One is designed essentially to shut down inquiring thought, and the other inspires inquiring thought. Now, it focuses it in the wrong direction, but once people who have sort of an open mind and a high level of intelligence are looking at a certain subject, if it turns out to be some kind of distraction, those are the people most likely to see through it. Whereas people who enjoy things like soap opera scandals, celebrity gossip, and things like this, no offense, but to any of them, but they tend to be people of a lower IQ, people of a more conventional mindset. So that's the difference. The difference is one that if you start putting out stories about UFOs, people are more likely to see through it in that way. In which case, probably psychologists who have looked into this would probably agree with me. It's not a very good distraction technique. I think. I think that's the difference in my view.
I mean, there would always be the people who also would want to feel superior to the people who believe in UFOs. So we cannot erase those people. Kind of like how there are YouTubers that want to talk about flat earthers, even though there are very few flat earthers out there. And I think I have to agree with Stick Sextonhammer that the people talking about, the flat earth are probably just trolls. They probably don't actually mean it. They're probably just getting to you. But it's
Some of
like
them, yeah.
yeah, but there are going to be people who are going to talk about the flat earthers, that are going to complain about vegans because human beings have this need to feel superior to other human beings, you know.
And indeed, the UFO community has lots of them. I call them backslappers. And these are the people like if you don't know what a backslapper is, just mention any kind of phenomenon, any kind of case, and they'll say that's a psyop, man. It's a psyop. And you say, well, what about this person over here? And you mention a ufologist or a person who's into UFOs like myself, and they'll say that person's a shill, man. They're working for the CIA. Or, oh, that person's naive. And so they keep saying, well, there's all this dissent, but only I can see through it because I'm superior. And you get these, so you get them in the UFO community. I'm sure you get them in every community. I mean, the flat Earth thing, I mean, it's very funny. I don't actually believe the Earth is flat, but um, there's an entire subculture of people in the conspiracy sphere and in the weirder sphere that do, so yeah, those characters do exist everywhere, I think.
Yeah, but like Stu Hammer believes that those people saying that the earth is flat, he believes that they're trolls, that they don't really mean it, that they're trying to, have fun, they're like teenagers trying to have fun.
Well, having spoken to a couple of them, I interviewed a guy called Mark Sargent for my show, and I think he does believe it. He's not a teenager. I think he's 50 something. Um, he believes it. I think, Rin. He really does believe that the Earth is flat. I think he's wrong, but I don't think. I think he's for real. He's sincere. Believe it or not. It's It's a strange. Now, Sticks, funny enough, he doesn't believe in UFOs. I think he'd agree with a lot of what you said about UFOs.
Oh, really?
He does.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, like, but
You
that's
and
what me
Sticks
and
like
Stick
that on that. I tell you, you
yeah,
two
but
are like
that's what
neck and
me
neck
and
on there.
Sticks have in common is that we both don't believe in UFOs. Like, I mean, I do believe that there are unidentifiable flying objects, but I believe that it's gonna be, somebody spying on us, so it's like, while I do believe that there are unidentified flying objects out there, my first conclusion would be like somebody is spying on us and it's probably my own government.
That could be. See, that could be the case. In some, if you see something in the sky that is buzzing around, it's some kind of drone, but if it's a type you've never seen before and it's like a quadcopter, and it's like it probably is something from the government. Yeah, it is. So that does happen too. It does happen too. But like, I think where I disagree with you is that not all of these UFO cases can be explained that way. There's a minority, probably less than. I mean, Project Blue Book said less than 30%. I'd say probably less than 20% of reports that fit into that category. But they are, I think, very interesting. They are. And I take them seriously. I mean, I've seen some strange things in the sky. I can't explain.
Yeah, but to me, that there's always going to be a logical explanation for the strange thing you see, in the sky. It's going to be, the American government spying on you, or your own government spying on you, or the Russian spying on you, or the Chinese spying on you. Like somebody's spying on you.
Well, I mean, firstly, I'm going to have to be. I hope you don't mind if I'm a bit pedantic at this point, but there's no such thing as a logical explanation. There's only a logical method. So a conclusion can be reached by illogic or illogical means. But sometimes logic leads you to say this is not human. I mean, for example, way back a long time ago, it was 2008 actually. I saw something in the sky. It was, I mean, I've seen things in the sky I can't explain, but this is different. This one did seem to defy explanation. It was something I saw quite clearly. It was a white circular object or spherical object. I just looked up. It was a windy day and there were clouds in the sky. And it was December. It was just after Christmas and before New Year. And I saw a white circular object just in the sky like that. Very small. I mean, probably a quarter of the size of the full moon on the celestial sphere. And I said, "What's that?" And I looked up, and it was just hanging in the sky. And despite the fact it was windy, it wasn't moving. And not one of the other features you could add to the observables is that some strange objects don't seem to be affected by the weather, unlike a normal aircraft. For example, a balloon would be moving in the direction of the wind. It wasn't. And I just watched it for a while, and it didn't move. And then a cloud came between myself and it. And you could tell by the fact that the cloud was between myself and it that this object was quite a long way away. I don't know exactly what its range was, but it must have been quite some distance, meaning it's some considerable size. And then I waited for the cloud to move away, and when it had, the thing had gone.
Yeah,
And
but
what was that? What could that be?
it could be your eyes playing tricks on you. Like, have you heard of flashes?
Oh
Have you?
yeah, yeah. Have
Yeah,
you have
have you?
them? Yeah,
You have flashes in your vision where you
like
just
things
see a
that go like
flash
that.
of
Yeah,
light. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like it could be flashes, like where you see flashes of lights, because like, there are things
Mm.
that could be, it could be a sign that there's something wrong with your vision,
Well, you
potentially.
see, it wasn't a flash of light. I was actually observing it for probably 3 to 4 minutes. It wasn't a floater either, because I mean, I get floaters in my eyes like most people. They tend to move around with my vision. This one didn't. It was this one. See, floaters will go like that. Yeah, they'll be wherever you look because they're inside your eye. They come from inside your eye. But
Yeah,
this one
yeah,
was like that, and I was moving my head and moving my vision. And the thing was just staying there.
yeah, because it's like you got to rule out, floaters, because like I've been seeing floaters lately. Like lately, I've been like seeing floaters. Like there's this like black floater in my vision. I mean that black floater is so annoying, and I wish it would just
Yeah.
go away.
I've had those occasionally. I mean, I get white and black ones. I mean, they're just little lumps of something inside your eyeball, and they just sort of like float around inside your eyeball. You can't really get rid of them; they're quite difficult. But they are. I mean, you must wherever you look, it will be there in front of your eye. So if you look that way, it'll be there, and if you look that way, it'll be there.
Hmm.
I mean, surely that's the case with that floater, isn't it?
Yeah, that's further. But then there are other things that could be wrong with your vision, like flashes,
Mm.
like where you could just be a flash would just be in front of your eye.
Well, this wasn't a flash. I mean, like I said, I observed it for 3 to 4 minutes.
Mm.
I mean, if it was a balloon, you see, why wasn't it moving with the wind? Oh, if it's not a balloon, what else could it be? And it's not flashes, it's not floaters. I mean, what else could it be? I mean,
Like how would you know that it isn't like a flash or something? Because it's like like there was this one time like I was taking like my medication, and I was coughing really bad, and then I just saw like all of these like bright sparkling lights on, in my vision, and they just stayed there. Like these bright lights were like in my vision for about 5 minutes.
Oh right, yeah. I've had that when I'm coughing, I'm short of breath. I go, I'll get like lights in front of my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, like when yeah, like
Mm,
where you're short of breath or you're coughing, and then next thing you know, there's like lights in front of your eyes for about
yeah.
5 minutes.
Oh, yes, I've had that. Yeah, when I'm short of breath, I'll sometimes see lights of like because I've had coughing fits and that does happen. Yeah, what if I've thrown up or something? I'll find it's to do with like blood pressure and things like that in your head. Um, so yes, that does happen. And indeed, I suppose the question is, well, could this be some kind of hallucination? And I can't prove it wasn't. I didn't get a photograph of it because I was actually on the phone to my partner at the time. So I was talking to her as I was seeing this, and I was describing it to her. And I suppose I should have just stopped the camera and I should have stopped the call and gone and got a photo of it. But probably wouldn't have been a very good photos. I mean, it was quite an old phone, even in the late 2000s. So probably wouldn't have been a very good quality photo. And then someone would accuse me of faking it. Of course, you know, as it always happens. Well, you might have faked it. Yeah, of course. But these days, any piece of visual evidence you present could be faked, and someone will accuse you of faking it, and they might be right because it's too easy to fake things. It's so easy to produce really good fakes nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, especially these days. These days, I mean, like I've heard that of like the U.S. government being deceived, or it was either the government or a news outlet that got tricked by a fake. It was like
Yeah.
fake, but a news outlet reported it as real because the it looked real. It looked real.
Well, it seems these days, if you could go out and take a photo of the sky, put it in a Photoshop, and put in the instruction. Give me a good. Could you put a good UFO into that? And it'll do it within 5 minutes, and it will be indistinguishable from the real thing. I mean, no one else saw this, you see, because I suppose I wish there had been other witnesses who'd have seen this. If there was another person with me who saw it, I was on a road in the town, but there was no one else around. There was no one else in sight. Otherwise, I'd say, "Look, can you see that? Can you see that?" Excuse me. But I there was no one else there, which was frustrating. It was frustrating. So I can't prove I didn't imagine it, unfortunately.
Yeah, because it could be a hallucination because the human eyes, are not very reliable. Like we like to think that our eyes are like, 100% reliable when really your eyes, could play tricks on you. And then you gotta combine that with wishful thinking. Like you're like, man, I hope that's you. Like people who are, it's kind of like people who believe in. Oh, yeah, people who believe in UFOs are more likely to see UFOs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. And yeah, I do have a bias. I'm perfectly willing to admit that I have a preconception, and like everyone does. I mean, there are people who don't believe in UFOs, and when they see something very weird that has the five observables, they'll just say, "Oh, that was a seagull." It's all people have biases, and all people have prejudices, and the the key to being a good researcher, I think, is to try and understand that you yourself have this bias, and once you just realize you have that, you can overcome it. And I do make an effort to do that. For example, I'll always go to see what the skeptics have to say about things. I watch Mick West is someone I follow on Twitter and on YouTube, and I always see what he has to say about things. And he's totally on your side. I mean, he says it's all nonsense. There are no aliens and things like that.
Yeah, like like I'm not denying that there are probably unidentified flying objects. I just don't believe in aliens. I do believe that there are unidentified flying objects, but I believe that it's going to be like the Russians or the Chinese or whatever. That or it's going to be in a drone or even like maybe a prodigy, like a rich kid that has the money to do it. So it's like, well, like kind of like how Bill Gates exists, but Bill Gates doing was computer and Microsoft. There could be a young prodigy, that makes the technology to fly in the sky, and it could be convincing to a lot of people, could scare people, could startle. It It reminds me of there's this episode from the famous Jet Jackson where there was this guy freaking out because he saw a UFO, and everybody thought he was crazy and insane, but it was actually a movie prop. But so to make the guy feel better, they put a movie prop in front of a government building, and then like everybody saw it, everybody started panicking and getting scared, and they're like, they're real, they're here. And he proved like, hey, it's a movie prop, but you're laughing at this guy. You're making fun of this guy. You're making him feel bad because he didn't know what he saw. But look, you got scared too. You started believing too when all it was just a movie prop.
It's yeah. I mean, this sort of trick has been done several times. There was actually an incident in it was in this country actually. There's actually it was a video called the Great British UFO Hoax, and it's worth seeing actually. It's quite interesting because basically a group of engineers got together and they said, let's fool people by building a fake flying saucer. And they did. What they built was essentially a big like an unmanned airship, filled with like helium sacks to provide lift. It had little electric motors which they put on the side of it, and they flew this over Avebury, which is it's a kind of gathering place of hippies and people and like that, where people are really credulous, and everyone's looking up in the sky and saying, "Well, what's that? What's that?" And it even got into the news. There was like a news story about it. Pardon me. Yeah, sorry. But what was really interesting about that case is that despite the fact that people did report seeing it and they did say it was a UFO, they did report pretty much what they saw. So the descriptions were actually quite accurate, which indicates that these people are actually much better witnesses than is previously thought. Because people like Mick West and the skeptics will say, "Well, this guy he saw what he thought was an alien, and then the story got exaggerated and it got embellished, and before you know it, there's like motherships flying over and things like this." That doesn't appear to be the case. It was a very interesting experiment, and if it was meant to try and disprove aliens, it didn't work. It actually kind of backfired. So yeah, it's but people can sometimes there are deliberate hoaxes, like the movie prop example you just gave. There's many couple of examples of that. Richard Branson did one. He built, Richard Branson built a balloon shaped like a UFO, and he flew it over London. It's quite funny. And then it landed, and he had this little like box, and it opened, and this little Hollywood alien got out. It's like, but again, people, it was even that got into like the news. Oh, there's this balloon flying over. There's this. Oh God, there's a flying saucer over London. It's the invader. They're invading and things like that. But people did actually report pretty much what they saw. There was, I think people are pretty good witnesses mostly. It seems.
Yeah, but see, here you are naming all of these UFO hoaxes where somebody engineer people like, oh, they're here. Like, I believe, and please take me in. Here you are listing all of these
Yeah.
UFO hoaxes.
Well, I wouldn't deny that these hoaxes take place, Fred. I mean, they do. They do. People will do. People will take the Mickey sometimes. They will try and trick others, and it does happen. Though it doesn't explain everything. It does not explain the entire phenomenon, in my view. Not least because those same kinds of people who are taken in by those hoaxes, will then similar people report real phenomena. And I think they will probably, if they're reporting the hoax accurately, they're probably going to report the real phenomenon accurately as well. So we should take their witness testimony more seriously. So really, the fact that people report these hoaxes as they see them, I think it supports my idea that some UFOs are real.
And to me, like when you bring up all these hoaxes, to me, it just proves to me that there is usually a logical explanation. Like it's going to be a hoax, or it's going to be, the military, or it's going to be like a drone or something like that.
Well, they can't all be. They can't all be hoaxes because there's just too many of them, and they're sometimes in places where it wouldn't actually be possible. For example, the middle of the ocean, or out in space, or at a nuclear weapons facility. You'd be surprised how many strange things are seen around nuclear weapons, where they're stored or where they're operated. I myself took a photograph. I wasn't actually photographing a UFO. I was photographing a landscape. I was on holiday in Scotland, and I photographed the landscape. And when I developed the photo, it was on one of those little disposable fun cameras. When I developed the photo, there was like a little flying saucer blob in the corner, and then I realised that there was actually a nuclear base in the frame. It was just at the bottom. There was the Trident base at Gairloch in Scotland, and there's many other examples. For example, the Rendlesham Forest incident, where strange objects actually landed in this wood outside this nuclear base here in England. And there was the Malmstrom incident, which involved strange occurrences at a nuclear launch facility in the United States. And there's many other examples of this. There's what's the one where they photographed one? There's a guy called Bob Jacobs. He was a photographer, and he was involved in missile tests. I think it was Big Sur, California. That's right. And they launched this missile, and he watched as this saucer-shaped object fired beams of light at it and blew it up. Those can't be hoaxes. Unless the person reporting them is a hoaxer, and then again you get lots of different people. Major Mansman, who was Bob's boss, he's now backing Bob up. It's saying no, it's true, it's real. So can't all be hoaxes.
Yeah, but like I said, don't forget, it could be, military, or it could be drones, or it could be there are numerous things that it could be that doesn't involve aliens.
If that's the case, then there's someone out there who can build an aircraft that can fly at the speed of a launching ballistic missile and destroy it in midair. If that's the case, then this person could undermine every nation's strategic nuclear deterrent easily.
I would rather believe that than aliens, in all honesty.
That in a way is more frightening than aliens, because that kind of technology could be used to terrible destructive effect.
Again, I still would more likely believe in dead than aliens.
Okay, so for example, if you wanted to launch a nuclear missile attack at an enemy, and that you knew that they were armed with their own nuclear deterrent, you could send a fleet of these objects up to destroy their retaliatory strike before it hits you. See what I mean? Did you find that more comforting or less comforting than there being aliens?
Just more realistic, because it's think about all of the destructive things we have already built. We build the nukes, we frequently build dangerous weapons. I think the UK built a laser beam that could destroy things. Yeah, the UK, I'm quite sure that it was the UK that designed a laser beam that could really destroy anything in the air. It looks exactly like the sort of thing that came from sci-fi. Like the sort of thing that comes from the sci-fi movies. But the UK literally built it.
Yeah, I mean that does happen. Yeah, it does happen. I don't think though. I think if that was the case, if this whole phenomenon was explained as some kind of high technology that had been developed in secret, then it would be something very recent. It was something that really would have only been seen in the last few decades, and before that there would have been absolutely nothing. There would have been just zero. And instead, what we have a phenomenon that has been described in various ways, sometimes using the language and metaphors of the time. This has existed since the beginning of history, and we called them different things. I mean, they were in the late 19th century. They were called mysterious airships. They might have been called. I think probably the oldest UFO report is the description in the book of Ezekiel in the Bible. It refers to the prophet Ezekiel, who describes. I think he describes it as a shield with four wheels, and it was accompanied in a thundercloud with explosions and bolts of lightning and things like that. If you read that description, He's describing some kind of aerial vehicle.
I wouldn't use like a biblical verse to prove that
Oh, man,
aliens
you're
are
an
real.
atheist. You're an atheist. Surely you're not scared of my blasphemy, are you?
I mean, it's not so much that I'm offended, but it's like you're. I mean, okay, so what does the talking snake in the Garden of Eden prove then?
Oh, yeah. Well, again, that's probably just a figment of someone's imagination.
Yeah, or it's kind
Mm.
of like, didn't Jacob get into a wrestling match with an angel?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I know. And David killed a guy who was 9.5 feet tall, and yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things in the
Well,
Bible.
I do believe that it's possible that a person that's 9 feet tall has existed. That doesn't seem too out there because there really are record high tall people out there.
Well, funny you say that, but in the area where most of the Bible comes from, essentially the Middle East, there is the skeletons have been found which are the size of Goliath. Yeah, that's true. Even about his size. Yeah.
Yes, so I could believe that, that there is a tiny guy, probably not with, uh, I don't know, I forgot how he killed Goliath. I forgot how he killed the
He,
guy.
he hit him with a stone from a sling.
I mean, maybe I don't know, like that's the part where I don't know, but I could believe that a small guy could kill a guy that's 9 foot tall, though.
Then again, I mean, but it's not just like the Bible. Obviously, the Bible is a historical text in some ways. I mean, I know that it's seen that way by Jews and Christians around the world. But there's also Tutmosis the third. Now he was an Egyptian pharaoh, and you have to go back before to the age before the Bible was written for this. I think it was 1300 BC. So this was centuries before the Bible was written, and his actual report was. Let me just see if I can find it, Ren, because it's interesting because this is again. If I'll see if I can find it. If it's there, let's have a look. Tutmos the third UFO. Yeah, um,
Yeah, but you Google search, such and such plus
yeah.
UFO, so it's gonna lead you to a biased website. That's, I
Well,
mean, you're finding, things that agree, with the thing you
well,
already
this is
believe.
Wikipedia. This is the Tully Papyrus. Uh, yes, this is Tully Papyrus on the 22nd of the third month. This is what Tutmosis said. At the 6th hour of the day, one of the chroniclers in the book of the House of Life discovered the strange disk approaching from the sky. It had no head. The breath from its mouth was an unpleasant odor. It was 50 meters long and 5 meters wide. It had no voice. It headed for the king's house. The minds became confused. They hit themselves in the stomach. They report back to the pharaoh. The pharaoh ordered to look up in the chronicles. Yeah, after the days had passed, it says they appear in the sky more than ever. They shine brighter than the sun and extend to all four corners of the sky. Um, this is extraordinary. This is like a very very old 13. I think it was 1300 BC, and 1480 BC. So that's very old. And it appears to be what looks like a UFO description. Now, that can't be a drone. That can't be a hoax. What's that? What was being reported there? It's interesting 'cause it shows how old this phenomenon is. So,
I mean, you're also, I mean, you'd take that seriously. I mean, in that case, I mean, can I read the Book of Mormon where he saw an angel in his bedroom, and the angel was flying in the air over his bedroom, and the angel gave him orders and instructions? I mean, you know,
which mean could it have been the whole thing have been made up? Yes, I mean it's so long ago. This papyrus is only just one. It was discovered in it was a it was discovered in 1933 by Alberto Tully, which is why it's called the Tully Papyrus. So could it have been made up? I mean,
I
yes.
mean
I mean,
it's kinda like we're talking about in the ancient times where people claim to be the sons or the daughters of the Greek gods, where I mean, didn't Julius Caesar claim to be related to Venus, as in the Greek goddess Venus, you know?
oh, oh, they in Roman times the Caesars were considered divine. Yeah, they were.
Yeah, like didn't Alexander the Great claim to be the son of Zeus?
Hmm. Of course, you can come up with all kinds of weird ideas, but it's just strange how these very ancient texts describe things very similar to what is still seen today. I mean, there's some very people like, for example, the Tic Tac footage and things like that, and the Go Fast and the gimbal. They
Yeah,
are
but
very
that was the very thing that John Oliver was trying to debunk. Go
mm,
fast, as it turns out, that it was basically the speed of which the plane recording it was going. So it's kind of like they were trying to figure out the exact speed of go fast, and it as it turns out, it was going slower than what
it was
you
going
think it
40 miles an
was.
hour. Yeah, it was going 40 miles an hour estimated. Yeah,
No, no, no,
but
no. Like, like they were trying to, like, I forgot the explanation presented in last week's Night with John Oliver, but that was the very thing he was trying to debunk, was go fast.
well, I'll tell you what. I'd love to see it. I mean, could you send us a link? I mean, I'm able to watch it through a VPN, but I'll have a watch of that, Rin. I'll let you know what I think about it because But I know that there's been many attempts to debunk those videos. Mick West, in particular, is very dedicated in his efforts to prove that these are not what he thinks they are, what people will say they are. And he's taken on, he's debated lots of people, including the pilots who actually were present when these things happened and even saw them themselves. Um, but you see, that reports like that. I mean, of course, these are very interesting videotapes, but the video recordings. But there are older reports that are very similar, for which there is no actual sophisticated. There's no sophisticated recording. At least there is none published. Including there's some very good reports that go back to World War II. That is the what's known as the Foo Fighters. Now, pilots in World War II called them Foo Fighters, but what they're describing, and I know that's a new wave rock band as well, a very good one too. But is this this? Oh, you've just provided with the link. All right, obviously I'm talking to you now, Rin, but later on I'll check that out. I'll check it out, see if I can watch it. Um, so how far back do these drones go? I mean, how long have governments been spying? Because they during World War II they must have been doing it. What about the Swedish ghost rocket phenomenon? This goes back to about 1930. The Swedish Army Air Corps was actually, this is the first aerial interception that has been recorded. They actually took off to try and investigate, and they followed these strange objects, these strange elongated cylinder-shaped objects that were flying through the sky. Again, are these drones? I mean, if these are drones, then they obviously may have some kind of esoteric gravity propulsion. But if we're going back to 1930, we're going back to the time when there were no airplanes at all except piston engine There were just piston engine airplanes and balloons. So surely we didn't invent this kind of technology before piston engine airplanes and balloons, did we? I mean, it really pushes that explanation to a stretch, doesn't it? And there's got to be more to it than that, in my view. Although I haven't seen the video yet, but I will have a look. I'll have to watch it through VPN, but I'll just make a note of it. There we go.
No, I'm just saying that there is much more that there is more likely that there's going to be a logical explanation for it all. I'm not saying that literally everything was a drone throughout time. I never said that's everything was a drone throughout time. I'm just saying that there is likely a very logical, very human explanation for the sighting.
Well, you
Like,
see, possibly.
including, and it can't be ruled out, tricks of the eye. Tricks of the eye also cannot be ruled out. Also, it cannot be ruled out as drugs. Like, think about, are you saying that people in the 1930s didn't do drugs, get really high?
Of course. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, of course, like John Oliver. I mean, the videos as I suspected. It's not actually last week tonight. I can't actually get that in my country. I'll try and watch it through a VPN later. Of course, like he could say, well, this is the explanation for what was seen today in the modern world. These videos were made in 20 years ago. Um, but then you go back to World War II and the ghost rockets, then it's another explanation. Hello, Ossia, how you doing? Then it's another explanation. So you have to add that onto there. Maybe it was, I don't know, maybe the pilots were taking drugs or something. Maybe I wasn't taking any drugs when I saw how I had my particular encounter. I can assure you that.
I
But,
didn't say it was drugs each and I didn't say it was
no,
drugs 100% of the
no,
time.
but then it's not the drones 100% of the time. It's you go back in time, there must be another explanation. You go back in time, there must be a different explanation. So maybe there is,
Exactly, exactly.
maybe.
You know?
But then you see, maybe there's a different explanation for why this same phenomenon keeps recurring again and again and again through history, and there's a different explanation for it in each time period. But then I think the burden of proof is on you to explain exactly what those explanations are and why they produce the same phenomenon every time.
No, like that's the reason why I sent you that video because it's like
Mm.
there it has been proven like there was a UFO that was a triangular shape that is probably the one you're talking about. It does have triangular shape, but
B2.
as it turned out, it was taken with night vision goggles, and as it turned out, it was proven to be a drone.
Proven. I mean, did someone actually look at it and say that's definitely a drone?
No, like people just figured out, like they figure out that, you took it with night vision goggles, and then if you realize the night vision goggles created the triangular shape, that it wasn't actually a triangle. You figure out the location it was taken, you
Yeah.
figure out where it was taken,
That was the USS
exactly.
Kidd, the USS Kidd footage. Unfortunately, what that was is probably the triangular shape was caused by the aperture of the camera. That is actually probably the explanation. That is USS Kidd. But there's other examples as well. There's the Omaha footage, where you see an object literally enter the water. That's the USS Omaha, which is a coastal patrol ship. And then you have something very similar is taken from a police helicopter, where you see essentially the same thing. You see an object. It's one of the best films ever. You see an object going along like that. It looks like a small circular object. It enters the sea, and for a while, for just a few, before it goes completely into the water, it sort of skims the surface half in and out. So it's going through the waves. It's very interesting, and then it goes straight underwater. Um, that to me, that really is something that would be very difficult to explain by any of the other things you've said, unless there's something we're missing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a lot like that's the reason why John Oliver decided to make a video about UFOs to
Mm.
discourage people from, giving their hopes up and be like, check me out now, aliens, I'm here and I am ready for you. Like, take me, abduct
I know.
me.
I wouldn't want to be abducted. I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't say take me. I mean, I. The thing is, though, you never know what if. I mean, I personally believe that alien abduction actually does happen. It's real, but you never know exactly what you're going to meet. You might meet one of the nasty ones, and they do exist. They do exist. So I wouldn't want to be abducted. I wouldn't say, "Come and take me, guys. Come and take me." No, bugger off. Leave me alone. That's what I would say. But I mean, what I'll do is I'll try to watch that Rin. I mean, it's probably floating around somewhere, even if I can't see it on tour. But I'll let you know what I think what I think about it if when I see it. But you see, there's a lot of people like Sticks himself, like I mentioned, Sticks Hexenhammer has done videos on UFOs. A lot of the people we both watch, like Sticks, Sargon has done a UFO video, Dave Cullen has done a UFO video, and they tend to take quite, I think, an excessively skeptical position in my view. So, although I think maybe Sargon's changed his mind lately.
Yeah, I had to agree with Six and Hammer. Yeah, like I had to agree with Six and Hammers. That's like sure, it's an unidentifiable flying object. That's true, but it's it Martians? Oh, come now. I mean, no. Oh, but let me read from Alcer.
Oh, that's interesting.
DF. F-117 is triangle shaped and was first found in 81, probably responsible for many mistaken sightings. Yeah, like many the sightings that you see is likely mistaken. Like, your eyes can play tricks on you. Also, I mean, let's be honest, my people like taking drugs and hallucinogens, like, so you could be hallucinating.
Well, the F-117, the Nighthawk, the stealth fighter. That's true. I mean, this was actually declassified in 1988, but before then it was top secret, so nobody knew about it. It was not published, and the government never discussed its existence and always kept it. It was denied its existence. So, and it may well have been seen. It was actually test flown at Area 51, which is that absolute hotbed of interest and intrigue for people who are interested in both UFOs and secret technology. It was seen by people, and as Ozia said, it was probably responsible for many mistaken sightings. Well, mistaken for what though? I mean, people would have seen an object flying over that was triangular shaped, and indeed, from below, it is almost a pure triangle. It's a very odd thing. At the same time, though, it does have a. It would be obviously an aeroplane. You can see that it's flying by aerofoil action. It would make a noise that sounds like an airplane. I know its engine is it has a specially designed engine to be very quiet, so it makes less noise than most jet aircraft. But it would still make some noise. There's no such thing as a silent jet aircraft. So if I saw something like that in 1981, I would probably say, "Yep, that's some kind of new airplane that the government are devising." I'd probably say
I
that.
doubt
I
that.
wouldn't say it's aliens. It's aliens. I don't think I would say that was aliens, even if of course, I didn't know what it was, and no one did in those days.
I think you would be sick of aliens like me.
Oh,
When
really? I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I swear to you, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
like for me, like when I just am more likely to believe. Okay, like I said, I do believe that there are unidentified objects out there, but it's going to be the Russians or the Chinese or the American government spying on us, or it could be like a child prodigy, like kind of like how Bill Gates was a child prodigy. It's going to be like a prodigy putting something in the air, and we're going to be like, whoa, so it's like it's good not to give these things too much attention, where you might see something, but it's good not to give your hopes up and go, it's aliens. Let me go and buy an alien, t-shirt and stand at the approximate same location and like, take me now, take me now. I'm here for you. It's like, when it could be that a wealthy kid, that's a child prodigy, probably, because, oh, it kind of reminds me, and this went viral, where there were, these really smart kids that built a flying witch, and they had the flying witch, flying in the air, and then everybody was staring in the air and looking. And that's because these really rich, really smart people actually built, they used their brains to build that, and people were looking at the sky and go, what am I looking at? What am I looking at? When it's really something that rich kids have built.
Oh, yeah, I mean that's a bit like the Avebury case I mentioned. And people, but I mean, when they because I mean, I gave you the example. I gave you my own example. You just given me a similar one. When they reported seeing this witch thing, this fake witch, did they actually say? What did they actually say about it? Did they say, "Well, that's a fake witch," or did they say, "Well, that is a alien or something"? I mean, how did they describe it?
Oh, I don't know. I just saw the video of the flying witch itself because, they were recording it for like YouTube or TikTok where they, built a flying witch, the witch's hats in the room. They built it, they have her flying over the ocean and flying, and everybody was looking up at the flying witch, when really the flying witch was just a drone that a bunch of rich teens, well, about three rich teams built.
All right, I was thinking of this. I wonder if I've seen it. Oh, there's this video I know. It's from Mexico where some people report this thing. They actually call it's actually called a bruja, which, as you probably know, because I know you're studying the language in Spanish, that means witch. And this bruja was kind of like going along in a straight line. It's like an upright object. I mean, it may not. It looks like a witch on a broomstick, but it may be something else. But this brouhaha is like going along like that, and it's sort of like, and you can see it go around the top of some hills and things like that. It's a very weird video. I don't know if I can find it, but it's
Yeah, like like this language that they built, it could really move. Like it moved like it circles and up and down. Like it like actually moved up and it actually moved down. It was swooping, and people were looking up at it. And they might think people who saw it might be thinking aliens taking me out. If they didn't get a good view of it, but it was actually something that rich kids built.
You see, one thing that happens whenever like a large number of UFOs are reported in a particular location, what's known as a flap, a large people will come and visit it from a long way around, and these will include believers in aliens, it includes skeptics, and people who are enthusiastic about aviation and want to find out what the latest spy plane is and things like that. All kinds of people come to gather at these spots, at these um, areas where this happens, and so if there's something real going on there, I mean, if there is something not real about it, there'll be as many people at the location who would be willing and indeed have a bias and a prejudice to expose the hoax or expose the delusion, as there are people who are believers who wear these T-shirts and say, "Come on, abduct me."
Yeah, but this is why it's also a great way, for like, let's just say you want to hide Epstein's Island or whatever. If you want to take the public's attention away from something, it would be good to use UFOs to take the public's attention away from something. UFOs, just as you said that there are even non-believers out there who would go there just to debunk the believers. It is an excellent distraction. So it's kind of like, let's just say you're supposed to be talking about you know, Epstein and Maxwell and go and get that Epstein didn't kill himself. Well, if you're too busy having your all of your attention on UFOs, you're not paying attention to the Epstein case. And they, you know, they got you to change the subjects. Now you've changed the subject, and people who are more interested in Epstein, it's like, okay, could we bring this topic back to, Epstein? Because, that would be the people who are hyper focused on Epstein and don't believe in aliens. But these are going to be the very people who are hyper focused, hyper fixated on Epstein.
Mm. I think we talked about that a little while ago, didn't we? We brought that up a little while ago.
Yeah, but then you just said that there's going to be like all of these like non-believers and skeptics that are going to show up to a sighting just to debunk the believers. And it's like, yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. It's like there are going to be, you've changed the subject because there are going to be people who are non-believers that want to feel mentally superior. They want to feel mentally superior to the believers, so they're going to show up to these alien sightings.
Oh
You know,
yeah. Of course. I mean, that's a slightly different situation, though. I think it's a slightly. I think it doesn't quite apply in the same way. I believe that, as I said earlier, you will end up with people who tend to be more analytical, will be drawn towards both the subject that you want to cover up and the cover story, rather than the people who are, I say, less analytic, and people who are more NPC, shall we say. Those are the people you want to distract. Those are the people you need to distract. The people who are analytical, the people who will see through things, are the people you don't want looking at it at all. You want to keep their attention completely away. And the best thing you can do, that you can't actively distract them, so you just try and do everything you can to make sure that it never comes into their perception. Whereas the people who are, sorry to sound patronizing, but are low IQ and non-analytical, you will distract them with something more mundane. We gave the example of Kate Middleton's tits, and things like that. So that I believe. I mean, you gave a couple of that I believe is much more likely. But you gave a couple. You gave the good examples of Hershey and Tucker Carlson. Those I think are examples of exactly what you're talking about. That kind of distraction. But it would not apply in this case. I don't think because again, you get the more analytical people then being deliberately having these things deliberately put into their perception. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, but like you said, that you see like, non-believers in these alien sightings trying to debunk the believers.
yeah, it's a slightly different situation. I mean, I was referring really to people, large numbers of analytical people who have different views, converging on a real situation, not a cover story. So it's slightly different. Um, sorry, Red, I'm gonna have to go in a minute. I'm sorry about this. I'm gonna have to leave soon.
Oh, that was good. We had a good discussion,
It's an hour and
It
a half.
was
That's hour and a half. That's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, hour and a half is still a good discussion, and not only that, but I mean, I have some shopping to do, so stuff. But I think that this was a good discussion, and I am glad that we've had it.
Definitely, me too. It's been interesting to discuss this with you. And what I'll do is I'm quite keen to watch that video you sent me, and I'll do what I can. I can watch it through the Tor browser. It'll probably work there because it is actually only it's not available in my country, so I have to pretend I'm in another country. So I think I can get that done. But yeah, thanks very much, Rid. Much appreciated. It's been good to talk to you again.
Yeah, I'm glad to talk to you again, because even when we disagree, we could be civil about it. We don't resort to name calling. Like, you don't end up calling me the N word, and I don't end up, calling you a bunch of, nasty insults.
Hmm.
We end up, having a civil disagreement without, it being vicious. Like, I haven't yelled at you once. You haven't yelled at me once. I didn't scream at you. You didn't scream at me. We both, had a calm.
That's true. I mean, I know I don't get angry with people for disagreeing with me. I only get angry with people who are rude and aggressive towards me. And unfortunately, there are a lot of those. But I don't go onto videos. I never do videos of those people. So yeah, definitely. And I want to say thanks to the guys who've watched because we've had some good comments, and I appreciate Seth. Seth, I know he's here. This is really nice, and thank you very much to all of you as well. And thanks to Rin for hosting me again.
Yeah, it was good, and I've been wondering if I should be leaving YouTube, but focusing on, like how there's like Rumble now. Like, you've heard of
Hmm.
Rumble.
Yes, I'm on Rumble. I mean, I all my videos are also on Rumble, and I put them on there as well as YouTube.
They don't censor people, do they?
No, it's a basic alt tech. It's free speech. A lot of Rumble users are actually YouTube refugees who have been banned from that YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like with YouTube, you get scared and afraid of saying the wrong thing and gets banned. But it's like, I think about going to Rumble and
Oh,
just say
definitely.
be completely, uncensored. Just be completely uncensored. Just, say what I want without being panicking, without worrying and being afraid and terrified of saying the wrong thing and losing the accounts that I've worked so hard to build, to
Yeah,
just go to Rumble and just say whatever it is that I want to say.
I would definitely. Also, I back everything you do on YouTube. I'd back up on alt tech as well, and put them on alt tech sites as well. That's what I do. And don't put all your eggs in the YouTube basket because you can't these days.
Do you get good views from Rumble?
Hmm. Reasonably, yeah. I mean, I don't think I'm shadow banned on Rumble like I am on YouTube, so I tend to get like, it's. I sometimes get 20 views, sometimes 50. I've had over 100 views sometimes, which is quite good for Rumble. And
Oh, and
sometimes,
sometimes you get over 100 views,
yeah. I
like,
mean, there's a couple. I haven't checked all my stats, but there's some. It's more than others. Whereas all my YouTube videos tend to get the same kind of viewing figures, which indicates that I am actually shadow banned.
yeah, yeah, no, that, but I'm trying to, like, I'm trying to just branch out, like, like go use more libertarian websites,
Mm.
put myself out there in a way that I won't get, shut up and censored because, like I could be very outspoken.
You do, and you tackle some very controversial subjects. I mean, we originally, I know we were going to talk about another subject, which is is probably the most controversial subject of all, which we could possibly do on a future program if you want. It's the one about the Cass report. I mean, that's extremely controversial, and YouTube are like targeting those kinds of videos for removal or for shadow banning.
Yeah, but it used to be like controversial topics. Those were the very things that would get you on the map, mainly because people could engage with it. Like, okay, for example, let's just say that you talked about your cute puppy. Let's just say that you have a pet dog. Your puppy could get a lot of views, but the only thing that I could say is your dog is cute. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? I can
Yeah,
only
you
say
can only do that for so long without getting bored, can't you? So.
Yeah, I could only say, Ben, you have a cute dog, and that's all I could say. I could only
Mm.
tell you how cute and adorable your dog is, but that's all I could say to you. But like with controversial topics, you could really engage with the person. You could even perhaps invite that person to a debate. Even though I wouldn't debate, anybody, to me, it wouldn't be like anybody would do. I would have to trust in your integrity in order to debate you. So if like
Yeah.
if I think that you are, mean or rude, okay, if you are vicious and nasty to me, I probably would say no.
Mm.
However, like if I viewed you as dishonest, I would probably also say no. It's kind of like I've got to believe in your integrity to have a debate with you.
Exactly, that's it. I would always be willing to debate or to appear on a video with somebody if they were good, if they were honest, I think, and behaved in good faith and were civil. If the only people I won't appear with, as I say, are trolls and abusers and people who've attacked me personally, those are the only people I won't engage with.
Like, you probably wouldn't want to take part in a debate if a person attacks your parents nonstop.
Absolutely not. No, no, absolutely not. And I mean, you're right about the YouTube has changed. I mean, I remember the good old days when you could actually be controversial. I mean, having a cute puppy, like you say, having a little cute dog is great, but there's only so many times you can say, "Oh, that dog is really cute," and people get bored. The only way to keep people's you can make it more interesting by making the dog do something controversial, which is, of course, what Count Dankula did. He had a cute dog, and he made
Mhm.
it do something very, very controversial indeed. And he even ended up in court. He almost went to jail. He had to pay an £800 fine.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember that. Like, you could actually be very successful by just having a cute dog and making nonstop YouTube videos about your dog and
mm.
put that dog on TikTok. However, the only thing I could say is, Ben, you have a cute dog. Oh, Ben, I love your dog so much. But after a while, you get kind of bored, and at most, I might save it somewhere, but I probably won't come back and visit you.
Yeah, I mean, thing is, what's sad is that when YouTube began in 2005, and Count Dankula had done what he did then, he would not have been banned. He would certainly not have been prosecuted criminally, and he would not have been banned from YouTube for doing that.
Yeah, but these days it's kind of like you. If it's that it's the only thing you could talk about.
Yeah, this is why YouTube is getting very, very boring. And the interesting stuff is now social media. I think the internet is splitting into two. It's the On the one side you have mainstream internet, which is becoming more like the mainstream media. You have the cat videos and the cute dogs and the makeup tutorials and the travel blogs and things like that. And on the other side, you get the interesting stuff. You get the paranormal, radical politics. You get the UFOs. You get the things that we like to talk about.
Mhm.
And that is those kinds of topics are now kind of being pushed off mainstream social media. We haven't all been banned, but we're certainly being handed our hat. The elbow is in the ribs. We don't want you here. And this
Y-
is why things like BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, Gab, Minds, Substack, Telegram. That's why these kinds of platforms are doing so well right now. And anyone with any brains is going to go and look at those things, and they're going to go and look at these alt tech sites.
And don't get me wrong, there are some controversial stuff on YouTube, but I do question if YouTube applies their rules evenly. You know, like, cause like, okay, like, what's his name? Like, some guy with Paul in his name, like that teenager who went to Japan, and it's like he went to a certain forest in Japan,
Yeah,
and it's kind of
what's
like
his name?
everybody got censored. Everybody got censored from talking about when he went to a particular forest in Japan. Everybody got censored except for him. He had to voluntarily take it down.
Oh, yeah, he filmed the dead body. The guy who S'd himself, didn't he? You know, killed
Hmm.
himself. I don't want to even say the word on YouTube, but he'd basically committed S. Hi, Woody Black, how you doing? um, yeah, I mean that was awful. I can't remember the name of the YouTuber, but yeah, that was he was yeah, he was very very upset about that. Definitely, you know.
Yeah, and he had to voluntarily take the video down while YouTube, went on a deleting spree. Like everybody else got a strike for it. Everybody else got their videos taken down, but
Yeah,
he was the only one that had to voluntarily take it down because it's like YouTube does play favorites.
yeah.
YouTube has its favorites, which makes things even more confusing because you think, oh, I'm allowed to say this because I saw somebody else say it. But if they say it, they are fine. You say it, you get in trouble. For example, many people would get in trouble for saying the F slur, like the homophobic slur. Like, but there is this gay YouTuber there is this gay YouTuber who uses a homophobic slur nonstop. YouTube does nothing to him, but it's like everybody else would be like at risk of, getting their channel taken down, getting a strike, getting banned. But there's this gay guy who uses that homophobic slur nonstop. They're not gonna do anything to, him, but like
Yeah.
other people could just, if they say it, you'll get a strike and your video will be taken down. So
Well,
YouTube doesn't even apply its rules evenly across the board.
unfortunately, in that case, and in the case of the guy who went to Japan, the reason is unfortunately is simply AdSense. They make money off these more popular videos, and so they keep those, and they get rid of the less popular ones and the unmonetized ones and things like that. Yes, I'm afraid I'm going to have to go, Ren. And Woody Black has just joined us. I've got to go and do something, but I'm sorry, Woody. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, it's been really, really
Good
nice, and
fun.
I'm glad you came.
You too. You too. Thanks very much. Is it all right if I mirror this video?
Oh, it's okay. You could mirror any of the videos that I have,
Thanks very much. What I'll also do is I'll mirror it on Hapanmo TV, but I'll also post a link to this live stream on Hapanmo Voice. That's my news site. So people who read that will come and watch this video.
Oh, that's cool. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye, Guy Freaky, Evil. Sorry, Elsia and Woody, and everyone else.